What's up, everybody? I wanted to record a video today. This is going to sound a little bit crazy, but I wanted to throw it out there anyways because I believe in the golden rule, and I have no idea if I'm right about this, but if I am, it could save some lives. It could save your life. If you're living in Michigan, this is really an evacuation plan for the state of Michigan, the Lower Peninsula at least. That's what I'm doing my homework on here, and that's what I'm reporting on with this video. And if you're a Michigan resident, you should be aware that we are in the midst of a pole shift. And just like a magnetic reversal of our atmosphere and the spin of Earth, that is what we are about to experience. I've studied this concept and this kind of like a prophecy, I guess, for a very long time. I'm a Christian. I've read the Bible. I've read the book of Revelations. Parts of Isaiah and other places. For example, Isaiah 24 speaks of the Lord is going to lay waste to the earth and devastate it. He will ruin its face and scatter its inhabitants. It will be the same for priests as people, as masters, as servants, as mistress and servant, seller or buyer. I'll go on and so on and so forth. But this is clearly, Isaiah 24 is clearly describing a pole shift. That's one example. There's also the Hopi blue and red star Kachina prophecy, which speaks of a destroyer that will change the face of the earth. And basically, the Hopi Indians say that our natural rotation is counterclockwise. Counterclockwise rotation, being our natural spin, actually is congruent with historical reports that the sun used to rise in the east and set in the west instead of the way that it does right now. I believe that this transition that we're about to undergo is because the Earth, as well as the Sun and all the other planets in our solar system, have crossed what they call or would consider the event horizon of the Milky Way galaxy. So we've basically left a northern portion of it and entered a southern portion of it, if you will. And our entire Milky Way galaxy also has an electromagnetic field that's generated from the spin of the whole universe. And the transit of Earth, which takes, Earth and the whole solar system, takes 26,750 years for our Earth and solar system and all of our planets to make a lap around the solar system. And as we travel that great distance, it's broken down into ages. And age is roughly 12,000 or 2,125 years, I believe. And that's what we call the precession of the equinoxes. So we have just recently left the Piscean age, and we've now begun the Aquarian age. According to Edgar Cayce, which is somebody that I've spent time researching and studying, probably at least 20 years or more, has a lot of prophecies, and I'll put all these links in the description of this video so you can read about it yourself. But he talks about a lot of the earth changes that will take place at the end of this age, and he specifically mentions both volcanic and tectonic activity increasing, as well as stranger and more bizarre weather, and those two events will precede the pole shift. Having said that, so again, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time in this video convincing you of the pole shift. I'm going to put links in the description for that. This video is really just more or less an evacuation plan, just in case. I have no idea what the circumstances are going to be like that day. I don't know if it's going to be, the ground shaking so much that everything literally just gets turned into liquefied ground and everybody just sinks into dirt. If that happens, we're all fucked and there's nothing anybody can do about it. But if it's just like general earthquakes, Michigan, where we live here, we are a generally safe state as far as, the grand scheme of natural disasters that can occur. There are no natural volcanoes around here. We don't have oceans, but we do have these Great Lakes. So there's giant, large bodies of water that can be hazardous. If you can imagine what happens to a glass of water if you're walking through the kitchen and you slip or change directions really quickly, or just, if you're like me and you're a klutz, I can have that water flying out of the glass real easily. And when you're talking about volumes of water like the Great Lakes, it's not something that that's something that you want to be around on that day. So if there's a possibility that you can still transit, from what I'm hearing and from other research that I've done, let's consider this here. This Edgar Cayce future map, which this is actually a map of the United States that Edgar Cayce predicted. And as you can see, this is what Michigan looks like in that prediction. It is two islands that are in the 1,000-foot plus range. The reason this is significant is because not so much the Great Lakes, but the oceans of the earth, and if massive tectonic activity does take place, it's very plausible that the entire tectonic plate that Michigan's basin sits on could sink lower towards the mantle, and you could just ultimately end up lower in relative position to sea level. And that's really what we're talking about here. And the map that Cayce predicted, by the way, this is not the only map that looks like this. Some naval officers and sailors who were in the Philadelphia experiments that also came back from the future reported this exact same map. So we're talking about two different sources of cartography confirmation from the future, at least. Look up Edward, I think his name is Gordon Michael Scallion, if I'm not mistaken. I'll put some links in the description for that. But as you can see in this image, we've got this area up here and this area right there, and that happens to very much coincide with these two areas that I've mapped out. And this is basically the 1,000-foot safe zone. So anything that I've highlighted in green in these two particular areas are 1,000-foot or in that close proximity. So like M46, this is actually the line of M46 where a lot of my family just happens to be located and has since before I was born. This is about 1,000 foot. It's about 970, it's in the upper 900-foot range, so I have to pick an area. But that's basically where it starts, and then it starts dropping in the 800 range when you get towards St. Louis, Alma, Mount Pleasant. That's in the 700-foot range, and as you go east on M20, it gets into the 1,000-foot plus range. I was actually at a park that was like 1,300 feet in elevation. That was right around there last weekend. Cadillac has the largest or the highest elevation in the Lower Peninsula. There's a park over here on the southwest or southeast side of Cadillac that's in the 1,700-foot range, and that's actually the highest point. There's actually a few points in this area that are 1,700 feet. Most of this region, though, is in the 1,400 range. So this is definitely above 1,000 feet. But as you get closer to a Great Lake, you're going to be getting closer to that hazard zone where water's sloshing around from a day where the Earth literally is changing its spin. And potentially the Great Lakes could, on this day, also be getting a massive influx of seawater from the ocean. And that's really what we see in this map here taking place. I spent a lot of time contemplating how on earth these maps could actually occur. And really, if you think about it, a pole shift is about the only thing that could do it, or a change in the way that gravity and water is actually flowing. And if there were a change in direction, some scientists that I've read about have predicted that the Earth's water would gravitate towards its poles. And so obviously this is north of the equator. Pretty much everything in the United States is in the northern hemisphere. So the water is going to want to move north and travel towards the pole if such an event takes place. And if you can imagine that taking place, then I would imagine a massive flood of water flowing up the Mississippi River, and basically the direction of the Mississippi River is going to change, and instead of being a river, it's just going to become a port where water is going to just flow from the ocean into the Great Lakes, and it's going to turn it into ocean. There's not going to be Great Lakes anymore after this takes place, or at least Lake Michigan for sure. I don't know about Lake Superior, if it would necessarily become brackish water, ocean water, but in the predictions from Cayce, that's exactly what happens. If the Great Lakes no longer exist and they become part of the ocean, and it becomes basically, they call it the Inland Seaway in the future. But again, this video is to help you if you are alive and kicking when the day of judgment, or what they call the destroyer, that's what the Hopi tradition calls it. The Bible calls it wormwood. If you're alive and kicking on that day when that happens, your best bet for survival is to head up in elevation and get 1,000 feet or higher. So this is where you want to head to. If you're in this area, head here. Anywhere in this I suppose, region. I suppose if I were in Saginaw, I would probably head here. But if I were in Flint, I would obviously head there. If you're in the Grand Rapids area, head north. If you're in the Battle Creek area, I would probably head there. Or even Lansing, I would head towards the higher ground that's near this band that goes through there. So that's my advice for those that are living and breathing and want to stay that way after we write the spin. There's actually a French scientist that I was watching a video here earlier tonight who claims to be the world's smartest inventor, and he thinks
North Pole,
this guy,
where Santa lives,
thinks that we can.
By the way, Yamal itself.
He spends about an hour and 9 minutes in this video explaining how he thinks that we can write the spin of Earth with a giant electromagnet. And he spends all this time in this video talking about how a giant electromagnet could actually fix what happens next after this pole shift does take place.
Cannot pass.
But I'll put the link for that in the description. But so this is basically the only thing I wanted to get across is I think this event is going to happen sometime in the next 12 months. Could be today, could be tomorrow, could be next week. But according to a lot of estimates, we're getting real close. And the reason is we're getting close to the 50% point where North Pole has traveled at least 50% of the way from where it started about 20 years ago to where it's headed in Siberia. And when it reaches about 50% of the way, a lot of scientists think that, like a lot of magnets, making a magnetic a movement based on electromagnetism, that movement reaches a tipping point at some point, and then it just flips, right? You know, like two magnets do. If you've ever tried to play with two magnets together, you know, you can push and push and push, trying to force those repulsing magnetic forces against each other, but eventually they flip and snap together. And that's really what we're dealing with. And I'm not sure if this is something that's actually being caused by something in space, you know, like another planet or something like that. There's a lot of people that have postulated that type of thing. I've spent a lot of time pondering it. I have no idea what the actual answer to that is. And I don't know if we're ever going to know that. But as far as surviving the change of spin of Earth, folks are going to want to just get the heck away from water, stay away from volcanoes, and stay away from fault zones. So those are the biggest, most dangerous places to be here in Michigan. Get to high ground, get over 1,000 feet in elevation, and hopefully that will be a safe spot. My cats and dogs are fighting, so I'm going to let you go. Stay safe. God bless. Take care. See ya.